I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on this day. Ironically, this is actually 2 years to the day that we hired Hugh Jackson as the coach at Grambling State University. And as of this particular time, I think we're about maybe a week or so, a week and a half away from him not being retained as head coach at Grambling State University. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the show and want to start off by asking this a couple of questions first. And I want to go do a round table. I'll call you when I want you to respond, and then we'll try to keep it short and sweet, but to the point. And then we want to get these questions in as soon as we can, as quickly as we can, but we also want to hear everybody's response. My first question is, does a 6-5 Grambling football team, does Hugh Jackson get fired or not retained? That's my first question. And my first person is going to go to Crystal, then I'm going to go to Alfred. Go ahead, Crystal.
Well, in some cases, 6-5, yes, but I personally would appreciate, I thought they should have let Hugh stay that one more year that he requested. I really do. Because now, look at us now. We're stuck again in a situation where someone's going to be rebuilding. So if he asks for the one more year, I did see improvements in the team. I did see that he was willing to make changes while we were playing, but I would have went for that one more year.
So if we're 6-5, to clarify, if we're 6-5, we still have Hugh, in your opinion?
One more year, though.
Okay. All right. Okay, Alfred.
So the record. So we were 5-6.
5-6.
I said 5-6. We still should have had him. We had improved from last year, and I'm speaking from being close to the team. We improved from last year. You don't give a person 2 years to come in and try to rebuild a team. At minimum, he should have had 3 years. He had taken over a team that the reason why he got hired because we wasn't doing well. He had 1 year to try to put together his team. And I would say, because I was so close to the team, we didn't only have a SWAC championship offense that was coming back, but I would say we had a celebration championship team. Kids was young. He built that team from freshman and sophomore, and next year was going to be able to reap the benefits of his labor. So I think firing him was I'm gonna say neglectful. They had there was no reason to fire that man. He should at least at minimum had another year. It's impossible. I say the same thing when Southern fired their coach. What me Grambling unrealistic expectations. What doing?
Alfred.
And so now, huh?
We're gonna. I just want to get on because you're making some valid points.
Absolutely.
Those will be some questions that we're going to be asking
all right.
a little bit later on. So to go back and make sure we clarify, in your opinion, we should retain him whether he was 5-6 or 6-5. Okay. All right, Angelique, what do you think?
Correct. We should have retained.
Angelique, what are your thoughts?
I think we should have kept him. We should have given him another year. There was no reason that we should have terminated him like that. We did see some improvements in the football team, and we've seen some improvements in the program.
Okay. All right, Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, right, your question, though, is liking in a sense, because you went straight only with the win-loss situation when there were many other factors involved in his termination, contractual, leadership, and perceptions. Those are all factors, and that's where the sausage is made. So the 6-5 question, if you would have just asked that question, given where we've come from in the past, the answer would be no, if he just did a win-loss. But there were many other factors as to why he was terminated.
Okay. All right. In my opinion, I think that, as some of you have echoed, if you take away the contractual thing, as Mike said, and I think just to answer my own question, 6-5, no, I don't think you fire Hugh Jackson in 6-5. I don't think it. I don't think you do, because you're talking about a team that was 3-8, making it 2-3 with the win at the Bayou Classic would have been 3 games, a 3-game improvement from the previous year. You just don't do that. But okay, what's done is done, and we'll get into some of the other statements that Mike made earlier a little bit later on. Okay, the second question is something that I think Alfred mentioned on: is 2 years long enough to properly turn a team around? I'll go with Mike on this one.
Well, no, but you should see drastic improvements in 2 years. I think we saw a buildup of talent, but we did not see a buildup in production. And so the 2-year thing, Ray, is, again, you cannot escape the contractual agreement that Hugh Jackson made with the university when he signed that contract. And I think he kind of put himself in a trick box when he signed that contract. So I'm gonna stop there. You get to the other part of it later. We can talk.
Okay, Crystal.
At one time, I think you could have done 2 years, but in 2023, no, you can't do 2 years in a SWAC school. You can't do it. No.
Okay, Alfred.
No, man, I should have had another year. Like, really, truly, ain't nothing justifiable for fining anybody no 2 years, unless they did some kind of horrible offense. Like, what are you thinking about? Like, you ain't got no time to build no team in no 2 years like that. And again, they brought in a lot of talent, and we had I'm telling you, a Celebration Bowl offense coming back, championship, and then all them people done left. Now you're talking about starting all over. That ain't on no level you fire nobody in no 2 years.
Okay, all right then, Angelique, what do you think?
What's the question again?
The question is 2 years long enough for a coach to turn the program around?
I don't think it is. And it just also depends on the situation that the coach comes into. The question was Hugh Jackson able to bring in the coaching staff that he needed, or did he inherit a coaching staff that was already existing? So that also can make a difference in, the 2 years. I don't think 2 years is a good moment to say a turnaround.
All right. And I don't think it's long enough either. And aside from the, if we were looking, and I mean, we meaning the university was looking for a way to get out, you also have to look at the reason why, because they didn't have to exercise that option. Just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be used. So, but that's fine. I don't think it's enough time because, as Alfred mentioned earlier, you've got you got a massive turnover from 2 years ago to 2021. So you have to make sure that those guys matriculate through the system. You're talking about new guys and also some some transfers and getting used to the staff and all that. So I don't think it's enough time, and it's unfortunate because now that you set this precedence, does every coach going forward have that same stipulation to their contract? And then on that same note, who do you really get? What kind of quality candidates do you get, knowing that they only have 2 years to do something? And then even if you do something, it has to be of a magnitude that has to be appealing in order to keep them. So, I mean, I know we all weigh the Bayou Classic, as a big, huge deal. And I know there's some people out there that think if we only win one game, it needs to be the Bayou Classic. I get it. But as someone who's played sports before, you want to win them all. And if left with anything else, if that's the only thing that you're playing for is a Bayou Classic win, well, of course, we want you to win that particular game. But let's go on to the next question because I don't want to get bogged down in my own rhetoric.
But you said a lot of stuff, Ray, that needs to be addressed. You said a whole lot of stuff in there.
Okay, well, let's save that to the free conversation time.
Okay.
And I think I answered my next question by saying, what do you think are you okay with the next coach getting 2 years to turn the program around? And what kind of coaches do you think we can get in the 2-year window? So let's throw that question, since I've answered my statement, let's throw that question out. Elfa, what do you think about that?
No, I think the next coach should get more than 2 years, at minimum 3 years. I mean, if you're seeing some improvement, I'm just going backwards, and that's what they feel like. You know, in 2 years, that's insane. Unless somebody did some kind of fireable offense, something illegal or something like that, man, you gonna find somebody in 2 years. That ain't make no sense.
Okay.
And then, and, like I said, he signed that contract, but man, that is ridiculous.
Okay. All right, Mike, what do you think?
Well, I hear everything that's being said, but here's the deal. I mean, you come in, you sit down and you negotiate a contract. You signed that contract,
right?
And so you can be held to that. Now, 2 years is not enough for a coach, I think, in any circumstance. And if I were a coach, I wouldn't sign a 2-year deal. And Hugh didn't sign a 2-year deal; he signed a 4-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
But they exercised it at the right time for reasons I think were correct. Okay. There was more to it than just firing him because of his record. There were financial reasons why, too, they had to exercise that contract. And so I agree with that. The bigger part of it, though, is Ray is, and Alfred said, when it's not just a coach. You're not going to get any coach to come in and sign a 2-year contract. It ain't going to happen. I mean, nobody's going to do that. So it all depends on how the athletic departments deal with a coach and how they set up that. There were a lot of factors where he was concerned why he's not there. And it all goes back to the leadership in the athletic department. Now, I'm going to stop there. We'll talk about that in the free period, too.
Okay. Crystal?
I would like to hear more what Mike has to say, because I don't understand, like, what was the contractual agreement that allowed, if it's the terms of the contract where it's just not your win-loss, like, what are they basing this off of? I mean, what are we actually?
I'll try to bring it up. I'll try to pull it up and read it to you from the actual contract. So we can go forward and bring that, when we get when I get the shot, I'm going to go and try to pull it up and read it out to you. Who was next? Moody? Angelique?
I think 2 years is not enough time. I think, well, my concern right now is with them even rushing to get a new coach when we don't have stability at the university. We don't even know who the next president is going to be. And I think that if they get something, I think that the next coach should be picked once the new president is at the university. So I don't like the idea that they're rushing to get a new coach. And I think about in March, we should be having a new president. I think the new president should be involved in that process and that procedure. That's just my concern with that right now.
Okay.
Can I address that real quick, Ray?
Hold on a second. Very valid points, Angelique. And I think that, as we go forward with this conversation in the next couple of minutes, that's going to be one of the main questions. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I want to address that why it's hot. And
sure, go ahead.
She used a word that's correct about rushing. However, you cannot delay very long. We've already got several players that are in the transfer portal. So if you wait too much longer, we will set the program back 10 years without having some leadership as a head football coach. So a new president or not, we do have an acting president in President Gallo. He's still there. Contrary to what most people believe, he's still there and will be there until that point in time. So I think we've got to go, not rush, have a thorough process, but we've got to get a head coach in place.
Okay. As far as I was told, there is basically only 6 people that have interviewed for the job. I'm not going to name the names of all of them because some of them are still employed, and I do not want to jeopardize their livelihood by putting their names out when, they're still employed. Now, there have been names that have been floating out on the internet that are not people that are not employed. That's, once it's out there, it's out there. But we'll talk about that. But I want to go back to some of the things that I want to open it up for free conversation and free questions. So if someone has a question that they want to put out there, let's go with that. So anybody can start.
I have not a question, but a statement to the young lady. You see, to understand the dynamic of getting a new coach right now, they have recruits that needs to be tried, trying to get, and also trying to retain some of our players. So that's why, as Mike was stating, that it's very important that we move forward with getting a new coach. Not so much as to rushing to get one, but we definitely need to get a new coach. February, when we're supposed to be getting the president, would be entirely too late. So that's just a statement I wanted to address to give her understanding.
My question to you guys is, isn't that kind of the responsibility right now of the interim coach until we get a permanent coach? Because we're at the end of December right now. We should have a new president by the end of February at the university. So, and I'm asking you guys, extreme rush? My key word is rush, because if Ray's saying only 6 candidates applied for the position for head coach at Grambling, to me, that's kind of alarming.
I don't know.
Am I looking at it the wrong way?
Go ahead,
I don't
Mike.
know if 6. Go ahead.
I mean, go ahead, Alfred. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alfred.
I don't know if 6 people only applied. It could have been more people, but that was the selection. So they could have possibly been more than 6 people that applied, but that just could have possibly all the people applications that they took for interview process. Yeah. But to answer your question about the interim coach, yes, that is his responsibility as to continue to recruit and stuff like that. But as a recruit, the interim thing that's on his name attached to the head coach is a big thing for some of these recruits, and so. You want to have a little more stability when it comes to that, when it's concerning the football team.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question, and let me to clear up something. If I said that it was only 6 that applied, I misspoke. I meant to say there were 6 that were interviewed. That's what I meant to say. So if I said applied, I apologize for that. I meant to say 6 people who were interviewed as information was given to me.
Right.
This is an open period, so let me address the whole idea too about coming to coach at Grambling. Yes, Grambling is a internationally known university with a great reputation, not with just football, but a bit beyond. But the reality of Grambling is that it is located in northern Louisiana, in the very rural part of Louisiana. And it is a tremendous lifestyle change for a lot of people that would come to Grambling. So it isn't like people are beating down the doors to get there. So, which means too that it takes a lot more diligence in making sure that we recruit or that we get the right coach for the right atmosphere to deal with the right type of culture that Grambling actually is. So it's and I think that word rush concerns me, that if we were to rush and hire someone without them knowing the lay of the land, which I believe happened with Hugh Jackson too, but I think he had no idea what he was stepping into, that you've got to make sure you get the right person that understand the culture in which they're stepping into. The name Grambling shines, and it's a big sign and with blinking lights saying it's beautiful and bright. But when they get there, there's a harsh reality of the type of living and lifestyle you have when you're at Grambling, let alone to deal with the politics of the state of Louisiana.
And on the same note, while he's saying that, you also, with that selection, that person has to have the savvy in order to hire a good staff around him.
Absolutely.
That can also adapt where he is falling off. And so if you, let's just say we hire somebody in the adequate amount of time, but if he hires a horrible staff, then what does that mean? That doesn't mean it means that we did it, but it just didn't work out. So we're in a really we're like in the Bermuda Triangle of problems that come up with this. I mean, in the middle of a president that's in flux, hiring a new football coach and an AD who I think has underperformed tremendously. So you've got to. We're in a bad situation, and it's not being made better by it being the new year. A lot of other coaches that are a lot of coaching positions that are open, and so if everybody's trying to pull from the same pool of candidates, then yeah, it's going to be slim pickings. And so yeah, I'm pretty sure that those other coaches who have their positions at those particular schools are saying, yeah, well, why would you want to go there? They don't even know who their coach is going to be. But I think we have to understand that we can't. When I think Angelique was saying, we can't rush to. I think we were rushing to try to make a hire without going through a process.
That's right.
I'm happy that the whatever happened to make that process at least slow down to the point of having a committee and or a search firm. And let me say search firm because I think that's a joke. I think that's a joke. The search firm, I think, is a joke because all it is to me means that they can hide behind the search firm and say, well, the search firm came up with this particular candidate, so and they can hide their hands and say, well, hey, the search firm did it, and it won't really allow people to really know who interviewed for the job, and that's what can happen. I don't think for 1 minute that Ed Reed applied for the job. Not for 1 minute. I know Melvin Spears did not interview for the job. I know that. Okay, right. So so those are names that were floating out there. There was a pick going around that these people, it was only 5 people, and these are the people that had applied for the job.
Well, Ray, I've had a problem with the fact that in the last 3 coaches selection, that the same people are the people that are in the process and are selecting the people. And I think if you keep doing the same thing with the same ingredients, you get the same kind of cake you bake. So either they do it properly or we just keep getting the same kind of situation we've been getting in the past. And I have a problem with that. I've expressed that to some of those folks that are in that process that keep doing the same thing, using the same criteria of emotions, personal attachments, personal affiliations, associations, and we keep getting the same thing. I have a problem with
that. Right. Go ahead, Alfred.
Right. And also, another thing that comes into play, I think, with selecting a coach as soon as possible is you trying to get a staff. You wait that late, and then you have people that's already hired. Because a lot of the coaches are being hired after these collegiate seasons, and if you wait that late, you'll miss out on a lot of coaches trying to put together a staff. And again, she has a valid point, but it's not so much rushing, but you have to try to get something in place if you want to get something that's going to be valid.
Right. Let me tell you the biggest part about hiring a new coach, though. Even what you're saying is very, very true. So the other part about that is this: when you know you've got the right coach, is when you hire a coach who can coach a coach. No matter, and he or she may have a program already in place, and they can coach their coach to coach. I've seen that, and I've seen it work, where they hire staff that can adapt their program and teach it. That's when you know you got the right coach. Not someone
I do say something. The jeopardy of not having a president before you have the coach is the coach and the president getting along, having 2 different agendas, and dealing with men, a male president, and dealing with a male coach. We know what happens. It'll be, a caveman situation where, once again, we're in the news for things like one man, we know what the situation is. So that's the jeopardy of not having a president, because the president will come in with their agenda and then you have a coach with his agenda.
And also an AD. So go ahead, Mike.
Please let me address that, because what you're saying is correct, but that happens only mostly at HBCUs where president get involved where they shouldn't be. Okay, if I'm the president and I hire an AD to run a particular department, or maybe chemistry department, physical education department, whatever department it is, if I hire you to run that division, my hands are off and let you run it, and I hold you to the criteria that I set for you, the standards or metrics that I put in place for you to run that particular department. So we don't need a president necessarily to hire a head coach, but we do need a strong AD who understands how to run their program to hire the right coach. And then whatever president may come in, hold that AD to whatever metrics they set for them, and that AD hold those coaches to whatever metrics they set for them. So you don't need that. What happened to HBCUs now is why they're held down, because we have too many people in the hierarchy of the university interfering in departments where they shouldn't be.
Well, on a note on that, and we all know to the victor goes the spoil. So if I'm hired at a university to preside over the university, that includes athletics.
Yeah.
And you want a president that actually has had experience with a strong athletic program, because some of these presidents have no clue. They're coming from schools that have, if they have sports at all, they may not be fully staffed as far as a Division I level. They may be D2 or D3. So they don't really know what it's like to have a name or a brand for Grambling State University, the Grambling Marching Band, and things of that nature. So it's a delicate balance, but I understand what Crystal is saying, because if I come in and I think that the AD was, the AD is handling some stuff that he did wrong, well, I'm not going to keep him.
I agree.
I'm going to get rid of it, because if I see if my vision is different for the university, it's up to me to choose an AD that has the vision that I share, or has a vision that he can bring me on board with as a way forward. And so and the crux of that problem for us is the athletic department. Yeah, I hear people saying that all the athletic department, all the athletic sports teams are doing well except football. Well, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. And all you have to do is just go to the website. You don't have to take my word for it. Just go to the website, and if whatever you feel is validating what a successful program or coaching is like, then you make your own decisions on it. But I want to say this real quickly. Have you all heard in mass about a program after a coach has been fired, keeping 4 or 5 people, retaining 4 or 5 people from the previous staff, from the staff of the coach that just got fired? Have y'all?
Yes and no, right? Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no.
From a standpoint of, I'm talking about like 5 or 6. I understand maybe an offensive coach, maybe a defensive coach or something like that, but 4 offensive coaches and 1 defensive coach. So what do you think about that?
Well, Ray, what happens with that though is, again, how were they signed? How were they hired? I mean, were they hired tethered to the head coach, or were they hired directly to the university? It all depends. I've seen it both ways, how it happens that way.
Well,
let me give you a good example of what happens. So at Vanderbilt University, Mason comes in as the head coach, right? So the athletic department tells him who he's going to hire as his offensive and defensive coordinators. They do that, but the contract with those coordinators are not tethered to the head coach's job. They're directly signed by the university. So that I don't know what it is at Grambling, how they sign on them. I don't know what is in the contract, because we don't know, and that's not my business to know that part of it. But I've seen that, yes and no. But now, should it happen? No, it should not happen.
Right. And anybody else with a comment on that?
I mean, I've seen where they, fired the head coach and kept the rest of the coaches until the new coach came, and then he fired them and brought his own staff.
Right. I mean, but I guess the question I'm asking is it a widespread thing?
Right. No. I have nobody pick and choose like that. No, never ever have I seen that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Coaches are not generally immediately fired, right? They usually stay on until the new coach gets there and he decides who he wants to keep or retain. That's usually how it's done.
Right. But I've been here and also being in the, putting, being out there in the news and checking what other people are doing from time to time, especially when you talk about a short window. 7 to 10 days, is relatively a short window for going through the process of interviewing and all that kind of stuff, and then hiring a coach and announcing and doing the press conference and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've never heard of that happening a lot of places where there's this is what happens normally. And again, I'm not just in the SWAC, space. No, I'm other places checking things out because I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happened there, and then I can say, okay, well, let's try that, or let's see. I'm always trying to sponge stuff up to make sure that I'm well-rounded when I come to talk about certain things. So I just find it weird that, in that same breath, you're talking about hiring people who, or retaining people who were basically, best friends with the athletic director. And that's shady to me. That's shady to me.
Well, it's where you here, 7 to 10 did, like you say, maybe they already had a perceived person who they was going to already hire. I mean, that's you can look at it like that. I mean, exactly. If it's going that fast, I already have in my mind who I'm gonna hire.
Exactly. So, but in that same breath, why if you have somebody that you're already gonna hire, why go through the process of having a search committee? Because when at the press conference, there was no mention of a search committee or a search firm. Now he might have been holding that information back or whatever, but it wasn't until the 7th or 10th day that they announced that there was going to be a search committee. And then the link you could only find, as far as I know, the only way you could find a link to the app to apply for the job was through the search the search firm's website, not through the university's website. So,
Right. Here's the thing. We're having this conversation. If we had the right leadership in the athletic department, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We wouldn't be questioning the process. We would be sitting back waiting just to see who the next coach is going to be.
And in all fairness, I did invite the athletic director on the show. So let that be known. I did invite him, and he said he had a prior place to be. So I understand that.
And I think leadership period at Grambling has been less accountable to the stakeholders of the university than anybody ever before. I think for some reason they feel like there's no reason that they should have any type of relational or public relational conversations with the primary stakeholders of the university from every department, starting with the president all the way up to the athletic department. We just don't have any kind of feedback except for what they want to give us to paint a picture that's bright and shiny of themselves. So I think there's a problem at the university as a whole. John Maxwell talks about something, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And the very first thing he talks about is the law of the lid, which means that leadership levels never rise above whatever the leadership is. So I think we keep getting the same thing over and over because we've not risen our leadership value or levels in the university as a whole. That's a problem. That's a whole different conversation, but I had to throw that in.
So we have to stop having a leadership that gives into public peer pressure or pressure. Like if you say something, that's your word, you stand on your word. Don't let the public change you. And because you do things like that, it drags our brand. It really makes us look silly at times. So you need to have someone who, when they say their word, when they speak a word, they stand by it and stand on it. Don't just be giving in all the time.
Well, I agree with that. And you've got to have, the sad thing about it is that we we haven't had a strong athletic presence, athletic leader for a while.
Wow.
In my opinion.
I think we've had them. It's just that, as Mike said, that with this last administration, for some reason, that individual wanted to play a major part in athletics when that was not his area of expertise. And when we did have, at a minimum, a decent AD to come in, the conflict was not with the program, but with the athletic director and the president. Yep. So, as Mike say, when the president starts getting over too much into that area, that's why you have an AD. That's why you have a provost to look over academics. Yes, he's the boss. He's the chief in charge of everything, but you have to allow people that you hire that are capable of doing their job to do them and not continue to intervene in what's going on over there. But Mike, hopefully we got new administration coming in. Hopefully that would change. I think there needs to be a lot of changes at Grambling. That's from the AD, and we are having some change. Fortunately, good with the leadership. So maybe we can see some changes, because the changes have to start at the top. And when you start allowing it's personality issues that it's actually interfering in making Grambling, helping Grambling to be where they're at. And just to get off track a little bit, is a lot of that is our fault, because we sit here as alums and allow a system to give us bad president after bad president after bad president. And so whose fault is that? We just sit there and just allow them to continue to do that. We've had 10 bad presidents since President Johnson, 10 bad presidents, sometimes a president every 2 years. And unfortunately, we have one president that set 7 years too long. And that's just my personal opinion on that. But yeah, he said too long. He should, 5 years, he should have been out after 5 years.
Well,
but, this is where we at. This is what we're having to deal with. This is the factor for us allowing these type of bad leadership to lead Grambling State University.
Going back to the athletic director statement that I made, who would you consider? And I'm talking about not just one person. We've got to be talking about a number of them over a period of time in order to validate saying that we've had good leadership. Who do you think were good leaders, ADs?
I think before.
Hey, Mike, let Angela go first.
No, go ahead, Mike. I'm listening. I'm getting my thoughts together.
You go ahead. You continue.
Paul Bryan, I thought, was a good AD. I really did. I thought he was going to do some great things to Grambling. But everybody knows it was he and the leadership had some conflict issues that I don't think that the president should have got involved with. So that's one that I can think of. And since Paul Bryan, we kind of had we've had Ponton. Everybody loves Ponton, but he's not an AD. We've had was Dr. Simmons.
Yeah, those are interim, basically interim.
All of those interims, and we just never had a stable AD. But I think Paul Bryan would have been a pretty good AD for Grambling.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the fact that we've had more ADs and presidents.
That's the same.
It's crazy.
The same.
It's crazy, and I will say that you've got to have. And I'm not going to sit here and say that as alums we know everything, because there's things at certain levels that we just don't know. There's certain there may be some things, but I don't think we do a good job of promoting anything at all. Don't get me started talking about the season tickets and the problems with the ticket office and a lot of things. So I've asked the AD over a couple of years, since he got here. This is the 6th show that I've done, and every single one of them, with the exception maybe the first one, I've asked for him to come on. And don't get me wrong, I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to, because he can't control the conversation. But I would like to hear some of the stuff he would actually say in a in a one-on-one interview that's being recorded, so everybody can see it, and be able to get out from under and make himself look a little better in the situation, because right now it's not looking good at all. I happened to be on the search committee when we hired Paul Bryant, and made no mistake about it. Out of the three candidates that was in the running, he was the best one by far. No doubt about it. He was the best one by far. So I still don't know what happened. I've heard some things, and I heard it has something to do with head coaching as well. Not also, not along with something that went on with the president, but I've heard, it's just, I'd like to know. Really like to know, because, I don't know if there's been an athletic director that's been hired prior to him, not going back all the way to the, in the modern time, that had as much experience as he had.
Right.
And so when I see that, and when I was hearing, this about he's leaving and all this stuff, I was like, wow, what's going on? I mean, whether you give him credit for the turf field or the scoreboard, I'm sure there's multiple people taking credit for that, and that's how it works, But I just didn't see. I'd like to answer those, find the answer to that question. I didn't. I was going to try to get with him when they came, with Alabama A&M came to play us. I was going to try to get to him and ask him, because as a person who was on that search committee, I would definitely like to know what happened and the reason why he's no longer here, and the places he's gone after us, he's done relatively well enough to get him another job back into the SWAC. So, but yeah, we can talk about the we could have a whole other show about the athletic director.
Do you even recall who they were?
But we don't want to have that. We don't want to just dwell on that, because it's part of what we're talking about. But I don't want to just dwell on the athletic director, because we could do 2 or 3 shows about that, and the athletic director's position, and individual athletic directors as well. So, and we've had some bad ones. We've had some bad hires, some really, really bad hires.
Okay. So who do we have after Aaron James? We had Aaron James.
Yeah, Chico Caldwell. You had Troy Matthew. Those, Troy Matthews. Jesus Christ! I mean, that dude was,
I don't even remember him.
You don't remember, because there's, but he had the name Sugar Bowl, attached to his resume, and everybody thought that he was gonna.
But Ray, again, yeah. I mean, the 3 top attributes that an AD has to have. Number 1 is leadership. Number 2 is business acumen, and number 3, fundraising ability. And if you don't have those top 3 things, you're not going to succeed. Now, having said that, if you don't understand the geography in which you're going to be operating, if you don't understand the location, if you don't understand the culture of Grambling, because it is so easy to get sucked into the wormhole of mediocrity. And if you don't raise yourself above that, you're going to get sucked right down into that hole. And if you try and maintain that, the egos that are there in place in the upper leadership are going to see you challenging them. And that's what got Paul Bryant out of the way, because he was trying to stay above that freight. So leadership is going to matter at the very top for every department on Grambling's campus if we're to ever get to a point of excellence. So yeah, we've had some horrible ADs that haven't got the scintilla of leadership ability or business acumen, has never run anything in their entire lives, have never known anything about customer service in their entire lives. And so, yeah, we've had some bad ADs, real bad ADs.
Okay. Anybody else have any free questions that they want to put out there for the group to answer or try to answer?
So have the search committee, have they set some kind of deadline or something, what they're doing? Do you know anything about?
Well, the thing about the search committee, it was just released, I think Thursday, that there was a search committee, or maybe even Wednesday. And then, then the interviews happened Friday, from what I understand. So, I think it threw everybody back when on the 7th or 10th day that there was a search committee, and then, a search firm. Because when we hired the AD, Paul Bryant, there was not a search firm that was in place. It was maybe about 12 to 15 maybe people sitting on that board, on that committee, with at least two former ADs, one from Grambling, one from Tech, and you had a mixed culture of people. Some feel I shouldn't have been on there, which is fine. It doesn't matter. But it also brought me an understanding, is that I can see how stuff gets slipped through, and how they can be skewed to make sure a certain person is brought into a better light than other people. So that's my experience with the board. And I have to be on every single board since then, whether it be hiring the soccer coach to an athletic director, because I feel I have some community awareness information to bring than some people who just are only thinking about, okay, I've been in this position, kind of thing. So enough about my conversation. I want to hear about what you guys have to say. Any other questions that you guys want to
I'm kind of the search committee. When I looked at the names, it doesn't make sense. It's like they just went on the campus and randomly picked some people to be on the committee.
Well, here's what I can say that it's been done here that I've seen. They usually pick somebody associated with the alumni association. They pick somebody, probably the faculty advisor for athletics is usually on the thing. You usually have at least 1 to 2 students, maybe a football player, maybe even the SGA president, or even Miss Grambling from time to time may be on there. You try to get some well-respected leaders, former football players, if that's we're hiring a football coach, or just former AD that has insight to hiring and things like that.
Did you see that in this list? I didn't see.
Well, I saw
very few.
They did.
Individual, what you're saying, mentioning.
Okay,
they did.
And Angela,
they did.
Hold on, Mike. Go ahead, Alfred.
They did. They had the people that you were discussing, that you were saying, they had football players, the offensive player, the quarterback, the present quarterback, one of the defensive leaders. They also had the baseball coach, softball coach.
Yes.
So that was on there also. Also they had Doug and Shaq, which would be former alumni, for that former football players.
Right. Then you have Mr. Mason, who from Arcadia, who's I think he's a principal in the area. So I mean, it's a level. It's levels. I mean, you could say they could have found somebody. They
had a former football player. They had Randy Himes on. Randy Himes, former football player.
Yeah.
So guys, it's going to sound bad, but that's laughable. That is absolutely.
Thank you.
The entire committee.
Thank you.
That's what now?
And
you said it's laughable.
It's laughable. It's a joke. That entire committee selecting that, and that's why we never rise above what we always get, and we always are, because we're afraid to go higher and do things differently. There's no other university of any substantial level that does it that way. Not that way. Not one of those people will contribute anything to Grambling of any significance or have any influence on the growth and development of the university whatsoever. Not one of them. They got a lot of talk, but none of them will do anything for the university. Yeah. Well, and that includes my brother, Shaq, and all the rest of them. Yeah. They're not doing anything.
Okay, I disagree.
Recorded, and I'll say it again.
I disagree with that's fine. But here, I think the whole process was. I think it's a sham, a scam.
It is a sham.
And I'm not talking. I'm not just. I'm talking not the committees to say, but what led up to getting the committees, even getting them, was the sham, the scam to me, because I think the whole situation.
When you taint it at the very beginning, it's tainted throughout the entire process.
Right.
You cannot erase that. So you can say it's okay. It was a sham. If it's tainted from the beginning, it's tainted to the end, and then you get a tainted product. That's what we got with Hugh Jackson. That's what we got some of the others we hired. So the process stinks.
Yeah. So, well, I don't. I want to be specific with what I'm saying, because I don't want to be caught in a broad stroke with comments that were said. But I think the fact that John Simon, I think the fact that John Simon is on our staff is unbelievable, and has risen to the point where he's a naming away from being our permanent head football coach. You know what I don't like, Ray?
You know what I don't like, Ray? You're the host of this show, but don't bullshit us. Say it like it is. He is the best friend of the AD. Don't tap around it. Say it the way it is.
I didn't tap around it. I mentioned it earlier. I didn't tap around it.
Well, I think the thing is that what Red, I think one of the things Red said also is the same reason why you didn't hire or didn't want Art Browse, then should be the same reason why you don't want John.
Agreed.
I mean, if that's if they're going there, because this is what some of the issues that was raised for Art Browse that he was being accused of. So Art Browse was found not guilty. Well, John said, or they saying is not guilty, but that wasn't the point. It was the fact that it was bringing negativity to the university. So if you dismiss Art Browse, it's almost impossible to even have John on to be considered the head coach.
Well, the fact that he is on the staff, period, goes back to the whole thing. Because if he wasn't even on the staff, we wouldn't have this conversation. He should have never, in my opinion, based on, if you go back and read the situation with him, he was never acquitted of anything. Think about it. He was never acquitted. He resigned from the school.
They dropped it.
The school did not take it any further once he resigned from the school. That's not an admission of innocence. That's not an admission of innocence. So, but again, that's my opinion. You go back and look at the information. He wasn't not found guilty of something. They never went forward with it. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Okay? That's the difference, because if it happened and they decided not to go forward, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. But again, even with that, why would I bring somebody on? If Scott wasn't the AD, would John Simon be on our staff? Think about it. He wouldn't. Okay? And some other people. But, I get, you hire your friends and things like that, but you also have to take the responsibility of what happens at the fallout that follows it. So, if that's the case, and I can sit here and I can go through a litany of things that could warrant why the AD should have gotten fired years ago. Okay. But again, I'm not trying to make this whole conversation, this whole meeting about him, because he's part of this, part of the problem. But we have to take it what it is. So we've got to we have to find a way. And again, everybody's not going to agree. There's people out there that love him. That's fine, no problem with that. But some people don't really know everything, and that's good. You sometimes everybody can't handle the truth. You can't give the truth to everybody. But when people that are trying to disseminate the information, they're seen as zealots and haters and whatever. That's fine. You can call me whatever you want. But one thing you haven't called me is a liar. You haven't called me that, because my opinion is one thing. But if you say I'm lying, well, show me where I'm lying. Yes, I have an opinion. I know what an opinion is. I know what facts are also. So if I'm gonna sit here and tell you something, and I'll say, well, in my opinion, or I'll say, well, I know this to be true based on facts. So that's why I said, I'm not gonna release the names because I feel that I don't want to. I've seen people get fired with their names associated to a hire. I'm sensitive to that. I'm not. It's not lost on me. So that's why I decided not to. There's a lot of stuff floating around. Hey, there might be people. There might have been some conversations or some individual interviews that went on without everybody's knowledge, even the people that were on the committee. It very well could have happened. But to me, as an AD, you should have three or four coaches in every position in your back pocket in case something happens. That's just that's just being an AD. So I trust me, when this is done and when I upload it, I'm gonna send the link. So I'm not running from nothing. He'll get the link. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to, somebody doesn't have to send it to him. I'm gonna send it to him. So I'm able. I don't want. Huh?
I want to respectfully excuse myself. I'm going into my grandbaby's birthday party.
We appreciate that, man, and
I appreciate y'all having me on. I enjoyed the dialect, and looking forward to discussing some more things in the future with you all. And,
all right, man. We're gonna have another one pretty soon after they name the new coach. We'll have another, man. So appreciate it, man. Go handle your business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so kindly. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Hey, Ray.
All right, go ahead, Andrew.
Good to see everybody, man, and good to be seen. I got in kind of late, but I've been keeping up with the GoGrammy.com website and some of the comments that we've been sharing. And as you guys talk, I'm just sitting here with my brother-in-law, man, and I'm just, at some point, it just seemed like there's no embarrassment, but I don't get it, because if I got caught with my hand in a cookie jar, my rearing and my sense of ethics of what's right and what's wrong, man, I get out of town, without, because I smell a stink, a stench, in the hood we call it a stink, and we are too intelligent, too bright of a people. We know when we've been bamboozled or hoodwinked, and so what's going down to me is insulting to the alumni intelligence. With me, I'm just personally offended if it's true, and I know it to be true. They're trying to ramrod the powers that be, or the good old buddy. White folks been doing that for years. A good old boy thing. I do this for you if you do this for me, and that's really what I see. What do you call it when you're friends? It's a word for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that people
nepotism.
come in.
Nepotism.
Yeah, nepotism. Yeah, and so it's so obvious. But I thank God for the people that's speaking out and for the people that's exposing this. And as far as Doug and the other prominent alumni, how can you be a part of an institution, an icon like that, and not know what's going on? This ain't pointed. I would want to be a board member uh, if the organization ain't straight. I would want my name attached to a scam, such as this, because you got too much to lose. I be thinking about stuff like that, man.
Okay. Well, it's something that we're going to have to deal with, because I'm not going to sit here and I want to be clear and plain about this. I don't know everything. I don't profess to know everything. Okay. I'm not the spokesman for every person, every alum. On Go Grambling Pro boards, we have we let people say what they want to say. We want them to express their opinions about things. Some of them are not even close to how I feel, but that's how the person feels. What I try to do is try to bring information and facts so that person can make a better statement or opinion about how they feel. Because sometimes you make an opinion about something because you don't really know all the facts. What you're limited to, that's what you know. So if you had this other caveat in there, oh yeah, that'll make a difference in how I feel. So whether you like Hugh Jackson or not, I just don't think the process of you have to look at the process. And I was telling people when Broderick Fobbs got fired, I said, you all have to be careful because there's going to come a time when the person who you like is going to be in the crosshairs. And you're going to feel the way other people feel about the person who they like. So love Grambling more. We're going to have multiple coaches in our lifetime. Get ready for it. It was one year it was one time we only had 50, we had a coach for 56 years.
Yeah.
And the subsequent coaches haven't gotten 56 years in. Okay? Think about that. We've had Doug twice. We've had Melvin Spears. We've had Broadway, Fobbs, Hugh Jackson. Those numbers don't add up to 56.
No.
Okay. So if my math is correct, they don't. So it's gonna be, I just don't like it. It all goes back to the hire. It all goes back to the hiring of the AD. That's how all of this is in place. And if you think I'm telling you, just go back and do some research. Go back and look at some articles and things like that. Don't take my opinion into account. Just go back and look at objectively. Look at some of the things that have happened.
Yes.
And if you think that all of our sports programs are doing wonderful and great and fine, but judge them all the same. If you feel that and don't take credit for stuff that you do. I saw when the AD got a extension, they listed all the things that he supposedly had done. Come on, man. That's, if you think that everything on there was something that he did, then you're just buying into it. We got to be a little bit smarter than that. You can't just buy into it. You got to do your own research, man. And I know sitting behind the computers in different parts of the country, sometimes you don't get a firsthand knowledge of what's happening here in Grambling. Okay. Understandable. But think about that when you're making those statements, because there are people here who see what's going on every single day. And they can cut through the minutia of what is just trying to be pushed upon the general public. Two things I brought up, and I'm gonna get off of the AD. In his statement in the statement that was released by the university, it was saying that that the basketball team, the men's basketball team, won more games than they have won in the past 25 years or something like that, 40-something years, whatever it was, whatever the number was. Well, that did happen. But that's not an accomplishment that the athletic director can take credit for when the athletic director didn't hire the guy and didn't do anything to improve the life of basketball for the program. So, yes, it happened when he was there, but he did not directly do anything for that. Same thing with the softball coach. He did not hire the softball coach. The softball coach was here when he got here. Before he got here. So, I don't have a problem. Just take credit for the stuff that you do. You can't take credit for APRs and things like that when, that's not what you do. So all anybody wants is an athletic director is going to go out there, greet the public respectfully, go out and raise funds, not, go out and raise actual brand new funds for the program. Hire good coaches wherever they come from and things like that. But everybody, you can't hire. And here's the thing. If you think that if it's not Simon going to be the head coach, you got to understand that he's probably going to be retained. He's probably going to be retained. If he's an assistant.
I don't get that.
If he's going to be assistant.
I don't get it, but I see it.
Yeah. Because if you look at it, you think that that didn't happen before? You got two guys you had three guys on the staff from the same school, the same high school. Okay. You had two more guys from South Louisiana, from New Orleans. Fine. I mean, if you go back and look at the history of Grambling football, those have been, major players in Grambling's history and success. Factual. Okay, but you got 5 people from down that area. How many players are we getting from down that area? Is it evening out? You got 5 coaches from the area. Do we have 20 some players that's contributing mightily to the success of the program? So I just don't know how you can fire a coach and then retain that many people. Not just them, anybody else. I understand keep an offensive, defensive player coach and try to make sure that things are, with the program are stabilized, recruiting goes on, communication with the players are going on. But, we've had how many starters leave so far? And not saying it wouldn't happen before. It wouldn't have happened if he was still the coach. That's not to say it wouldn't have happened if he was still retained. But
Ray, how many of you heard has landed opportunities other place? And then we had about 10 last I checked that were in the portal.
So I don't know about the 10. All I know is about there's 3 offensive linemen and then chalk. Those are only
have they gained opportunity other places? I know they're in the portal. Have they actually left and already signed with other people?
Oh, I don't think so. I think because it doesn't happen that quickly because it's just too many people across the country that are, too many student athletes that are getting into the portal. Mm-hmm. And so I know that the coaches are taking the time trying to go through the recruiting of the portal because that's a full-time job. And with some of the high school students, the high school seniors, unless you're five-star plus, you're not even getting those looks anymore because the transfer portal is basically is what they call it, farm leaguing the NFL. I mean, farm leaguing the NCAA Division I football. So the portal giveth and the portal taketh away.
Yep.
So, Mike, lean back a little bit because your face is out of the camera. Okay. There you go. There you go. All right. Anybody else have any questions? We are going to do. We're going to try to do something. Maybe not the day of the new coach hiring. Maybe subsequent to that, we may do something like that.
So it's rumored that they should name a new coach by Monday. Have you heard that?
No, and my thing to you I would say to you is we should be hearing something when something's going to be announced. It should be announced from the university
like they said,
on a particular day. Okay, if it's not going to be released Monday, well, but I don't want to get a press release Monday morning at 9:00 saying that we're going to name a press conference at 10.
That's likely how it's going to happen.
Well, yeah, so, but that's unfortunate. And I know that there are a lot of moving parts and, contracts to look over and all those sort of things. But.
So let me ask you this, the type of contract that Hugh Jackson signed, is that kind of standard? Do you guys know that? Or with the 2 years guaranteed?
No, I haven't. This is the first time now from Grambling's perspective. This is the first time that I've ever seen it.
Okay.
That I've ever seen it. And I like to look at the contract because I like to see how they change and what they're saying and the wording is and things like that. So, I encourage everybody to do that. Look at those. You can request them. They're free. It's a public. Freedom of Information Act. You can request it and they'll send it to you. I encourage you to look at, and I did consult with some attorneys on certain passages to make sure it was the legalese was being, related to, general jargon so I could make sure I understood what was being said. So yeah, he had a 2-year, opt out clause for the university, and he signed it, thinking it wouldn't even be an issue. Hey, I know I can win X amount of games, so I'll sign it, no problem. So he did get a top heavy
very
salary.
top heavy.
Yeah, he's got paid more than any coach in Grambling history has gotten paid. And don't get me wrong, if you think about it,
his 1-year deal will probably be good for a lot of coaches. 3-year deal.
Yeah, if you look at his entire coaching history, I know everybody likes to focus on the NFL thing, but you look at his entire. I mean, if you look at it, really, he's the most experienced head coach that we've had on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's disputing that, because he's coached a lot of places, and you can't just jump to the NFL day one, day two. It takes you time to get to the point where you're hired as the NFL head coach, not once, but twice. So, and I know everybody, we look at what he didn't do, but it took, there's not many coaches that can say that they got hired 2-time, black coaches that say they got hired twice.
Right. That's not even a factor, though, because if you understand the NFL process, it doesn't even compare to the college process. I mean,
But my point is you the totality of the situation. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with Hugh being hired based on the other people that were in consideration.
Yeah, I have a serious problem
with it all being fair. Now, if I had my ultimate choice, I probably wouldn't have chosen him. But of the people that were there,
yeah, I don't remember who those people were. But I can tell you, the biggest problem we have is that we keep doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that we're somehow too remote of a location or too remote of an organization or an institution to get the modern day kind of assistance. There are consulting firms. I mean, it's no way possible that if I were a head coach that I would not, and or even a head coach or an AD, or even president, any other big position like that, when I'm going to run an institution, that I would not hire myself personally, for me, a consulting firm to help me transition into that new position. To do that, we keep doing the same old stuff, and that's just not Grambling though. That's a lot of the schools in the SWAC are doing the exact same thing. And I'm right down here in Baton Rouge, where Southern University, shame on them, probably has more resources than we have, and they keep doing worse than we do with a board of supervisors that control them. Why that happens in our communities, I have no idea. That we think we can, and I got a brother who tells me all the time, "You thinking like the white folks?" No, that's not it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking like doing things right that are going to move us forward into the present day situation where we're doing things successfully. That's all. It's so frustrating to see that we do things that way. But leadership matters. I keep coming. Leadership matters.
Okay, Drew, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of what we see is culture, and it's just how we've been doing business, But with that said, because of the exposure that we're getting on this thing, because I've been reading the Sports Illustration and this magazine and this article in the news about Grambling State University, this hiring process. So it seems like the cover has been peeled back. Seems like someone's getting ready to, we should have had a coach by now, But thanks be to God, the hiring process has slowed down, which is really a good thing. So given that, what does it look like? Who do y'all think it's gonna be?
I have no idea.
let me. I've heard so many names floated as the head, and I'm not. I'm talking about people who they're saying. Uh, I got a bunch of people saying is Ted White. I got a bunch of people saying John Simon. You know, there's some people saying Ed Reed. That name was. I heard some people mention Eric Dooley's name. That they would not that.
Yeah.
Not that they would want him to come and be the head coach at Grambling. Not necessarily heard him as a candidate, but you know, somebody who they would want to see
That
be
was
the next head coach at Grambling. So you know, I have my thoughts about that, but I'm, you know, I'll reserve it to the next show, what I feel about that situation. But I just think, okay, we've talked about this. Let's get into the other aspect of it. How can we change it? How can we make it better? Angela, how can we make the hiring of whether it be coaches or presidents, how can we make that situation better?
I can't wait.
Ooh, that's a good question. We have to, and more so from the presidential stand, we have to be more involved in alums. We have to identify that candidate that we want at Grambling, because what we've been allowing is for the system to appoint a person for us. We need someone with a brand outside of Louisiana that knows how to raise money, that knows research, not just a politician. We need an educator also, because Grambling is suffering tremendously as it relates to their academia programs. So we have to be a little more involved as alums. We have to demand that they provide us that particular candidate that's going to bring Grambling to be existing in another 50 plus years. We have kind of just sat back as alums and talked among ourselves and said nothing, and on social media and behind closed doors, when who is to blame? At some point, we are to blame also. So now it's time for us to start being vocal. Those days of President Johnson are gone. So we are the Johnsons that need to step up. We have been so complacent with what they are doing with Grambling. And again, we just got to be a little more vocal. If we even got to start going to Baton Rouge and holding them accountable, we have to start holding the U.S. system accountable for Grambling, because they are the one approving these contracts, these head coach contracts, the president contracts, all these other contracts at the head. They are the one approving these contracts. And we are sitting there and looking at them and allowing them to do it. So the question to you, at what point do we start stepping up to the plate? We had a leadership, current leadership, that's basically had no relationship with the alumni. The next person that comes in, he has to have a relationship with the alum. He has to know that our voice and opinions are valuable. We're not trying to run an institution. Just because we're concerned doesn't mean we're always criticizing. And I think that's the problem we've been having at Grambling.
Okay. Andrew?
Wow, that was great comments, Angel. And I agree. But my first inclination is our athletic director has to go, because I don't have any confidence or trust in him. He's just a person that has filled a position. Apparently, he was buddy with our president or something, you know. And how did he get hired in the first damn place? You know, who did he know? You know what I mean? So and then the president, bless his heart, Dr. Gallup, had to have played a part in all this, because all this started on his watch. So to change, we need a whole paradigm shift. We need a new model. We really need to do some personal inventory, because we causing harm to a great institution, you know? And so with that, I said, let's go with our athletic director, and our new president has to be schooled, you know? And you're right, the alumni has to play a part.
Okay. Mike?
Well, I think Angelique hit the nail on the head. For so long, our alumni has been totally impotent. I mean, just toothless in its approach and in its influence on Grammy. And it was weakened many presidents ago. And I forgot the young man, the president who came in, who pretty much severed the relationship with the National Alumni Association.
Oh, Horace Jessup.
Yeah. And we have not had any influence. We had little then. We have none, zero now. We also, we can talk about all athletics, but until those that are leading the university feel the impact of the stakeholders, and there are many of us that don't belong to the National Alumni Association that we need to gather in, until they understand the weight and the influence of the National Alumni Association and the demands for excellence, and that we move forward, they're going to stay. It's going to be the same thing of people just getting, growing wealthy for doing nothing. It's really going to boil down to. So I think that we've got to build a very strong alumni. And even in that area too, we have some problems in our National Alumni Association too, serious problems. And I think that focus is way off. But the second part about that, when we get that from we have got to understand political influence in the state of Louisiana. And we better understand it better than we ever have before, because the new governor that is now coming into the state of Louisiana, Grambling can be in trouble anyway.
Yeah.
We can be in trouble anyway. And all the conversations we're having now about ADs, presidents, and coach could all be in jeopardy. Because I think this guy is coming after us. I really believe that. I hope he doesn't. Because he doesn't care about the political blowback of attacking HBCUs. So the answer, I think, Ray, is a strong alumni.
Oh, okay.
So let me say this, Ray. We have, I don't think everybody realizes we're kind of in limbo. They have not confirmed President Gallo based on the meeting that was held Thursday. So if the system doesn't have a president and our president is supposed to be the system president, then where do we stand?
Oh.
Because apparently, if you were on that call on Thursday, I've never seen politics working at its best of what transpired on Thursday. So technically, President Gallo is supposed to take his position January the 2nd as the U.S. system president. They did not appoint an interim president for Grambling State University. So January the 2nd, where are we? Where do we stand? Where is our leadership? Are we going to have leadership January the 2nd?
Well, I think that what happened on that call and the subsequent, days following that, I think is unscripted. I don't think that there's, because I think it's, I don't know if it's, I don't follow Louisiana politics to that level. I think I've been on maybe 2 ULS calls in my life. So I don't really know how that is, but it just seems that I was told that the new incoming governor asked the board to halt the approval thing. Don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard.
It's
they
true.
asked them to halt the approval of the process which names Rick, the ULS president, and Jim Henderson, the president at Louisiana Tech. Well, I don't think that the governor-elect, he's not the governor right now. So the life goes on until he takes over. But he might have some influence over some of the people that were on the board, that the reason why it was halted. Okay, why weren't the contracts already signed, because there was interviews that were going out in news sources and newspapers about, Rick becoming the ULS president. So, and it was basically to everybody who saw that was a foregone conclusion that it was just a matter of time when it happens and things like that. So I don't know. And that's just what I've heard. I don't think that we'll actually know. It may just be delayed. The process may be just delayed. But, if we're giving in to a governor-elect on stuff that he doesn't really, it's not in his power right now to deal with. If the way I see it, as long as if John Bel Edwards is still the governor, and call it lame duck, that's what it is. But he still is still the governor, and ULS president Jim Henderson is still the ULS president, and whatever decisions they make are decisions that hold up until the next person or next group comes in. They may retain some of the. I know that like I said before, to the victor goes the spoil. So, you figure that the new governor is going to have people he want to be on the board. He want to name somebody as the board president himself. But if it was done before he got there, that's just it's just the way it is. Because I guarantee he wouldn't want his stuff changed if he's on his way out.
But like Mike said, you dealing with a whole different ball game when you come to this guy here. So I guarantee you, he's not going to follow any rules of the law.
Yeah, I don't know the guy.
Ability to stop whatever, but it still puts us in a limbo, because technically, if Gallo resigned and his last day at Grambling, and no one has came back and told us any different, is January the 2nd, and an interim was not appointed, then who's leading the university January 2nd?
That's a good question. And I don't know, because if what you're saying about the resignation, you had to resign before he was able to accept the job as the ULS president, then the answer to the question just based on that is probably the provost as interim, which probably was going to happen anyway if everything had played out the way it was supposed to. The provost, that's usually how it's done. Now, in certain situations, the board may decide to go with another vice president that's on campus. I've never heard of them naming somebody outside of somebody that was employed by the system as interim. So
I've never seen them have a line item and just act like it doesn't exist and move on and adjourn a meeting either. And I'm on these meetings every month.
And I just said that's probably just politics. That's not just Louisiana politics. That's just politics.
I've never seen anything like that. I think we all were in shock. And they just adjourned, and they never addressed the issue with an interim president.
I don't think they know. I just think that's like I said, that's that unwritten script that's yet to be written right now. And there's still time before. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The limbo thing and the so does this still push back the president's hiring date?
From what we understood, the president's search and the timeline has not been suspended, so that is still on track. But we still have that gap where if Gallo is officially gone, and he said it himself, January the 2nd, who is the interim, unless they come back in the next couple of weeks before then and appoint someone. But I've just never seen them not even address a line item on an agenda. Like, they didn't say, let's table it. They didn't say, let's move it down on the agenda. They just adjourned like it didn't even exist.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll find out about it, hopefully soon. But whichever way is gonna fan out, it's going to affect Lincoln Parish.
And how does that affect if they hire a new coach? Doesn't the UL system have to approve that hire?
Of course. They have to, if the president, once it goes through the process of, if the AD and let me go back. The search committee can only recommend.
Right.
Having the search committee the university nor the athletic director or the president does not have to take the recommendation of the search committee or the search firm. They're not bound to it. It's in most cases, search committees are for theatrics. It's like I said before, it's a way to kind of hide your hands, for an AD to kind of hide his hands and let that process kind of play out. So they don't have to have in some cases, they don't have to have, if they come back with candidate A, they can say, well, no, we don't want to go with candidate. The president can say, well, I don't want to go with that candidate A. Y'all go back and keep searching. Or can just take the recommendation of the athletic director.
Technically, the president got what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, and then the thing is, it's a mess, and
we're in limbo at this point.
Yeah. And it doesn't look good for all things involved, because if you talk about pushing stuff back and moving things kicking it down the road, it's not a good thing so we need to that's not a situation that's definitely in our hands. But because I don't know if this is something that's happened before. And
I've never seen it. I've never even really seen them suspend a search for a university president as they did with Louisiana Tech. That was a shock.
But I think
what they've been doing in the last couple of months since the new governor has won. I think that may be it. I think the influence, because that's the only thing it just makes sense to me that might be the only thing that's the reason for that. Because if the incoming governor made the statement to the board to kind of halt it, and in anticipation of him coming in and doing whatever he wants to do, then I don't know if that's I don't want to know. I don't know for sure if it's politics as usual or not. I don't really know about that. But let me go ahead and make my final thing, because I don't want to hold everybody on for forever. So what I think needs to happen is what I've always said. You have to have transparency. You have to be truthful in your statements. I don't think we're lost on the fact that you can change, you can pivot. No one's saying that just because you chose to go this one way that you can never go after research and consultation that, that might be that was not the best course of action. Let's go this other direction. Of course you can. You can pivot. That's something that you can do. And a smart person, especially if it's in the best interest of the university, pays attention and will pivot if it's in the best interest of the university and not of a person or persons. I've said it before on the previous 5 shows. If all 3 Gramblings are not strong, it's never going to work. You got to have the university, you got to have the alumni, you got to have the city. They all have to be strong. We know that everybody is not going to agree, and that's what I want to make sure that people understand it. Just because I disagree or agree with you doesn't mean I like or dislike you. And I think we tend to get too personal with having an opinion and then somebody disagreeing with you and then people piling on. I get it a lot because I'm an opinionated person. And so people pile on me about stuff. It doesn't, it's no big deal. But just, facts, go with your facts, follow the facts. If they don't pan out, I'm not trying to mislead anybody and trying to make anybody think that, my opinion is the only opinion that can be had. If I did, I'd be doing the show by myself. I want people to interact with what's going on. I want people to understand that you have your opinion is valuable and people want to hear it. And as people may not agree with it, they may find a different outcome once they know more information and looking at it from a different perspective. But until the Grambling 3, the big, the Grambling, legs are strong, it's not gonna work out. So transparency, accountability, there's got to be some sort of system in place that if this happens, somebody's got to fall on the sword and plan in place to bring somebody else on. If that doesn't happen, you got to have some accountability, transparency, and things of that nature. So
give to the Alumni Association, give to the university. Please do that. Don't let these things that maybe happen. Hopefully they're temporary, but we still need the support of the Alumni Association. We need the support of the university. We need the support of the city of Grambling to help Grambling become a better place for everybody. So, you know, while we're out there, you know, sporting our Grambling paraphernalia out there and things like that, Grambling needs you when we're losing too. We need your support then, not just when we're winning and homecoming and things like that. We need your support all the time for various things, even though you may not agree with who's the president, who's the AD, who's the head football or sports coach. You still should support as best you can within your means. That's always going to be my message, and it will forever be my message. So with that being said,
let me say something on that, Ray.
Sure.
Transparency, accountability. And until they resolve that, giving is going to be an issue.
Right. I agree. I understand.
To be totally honest with you, I don't think that alums don't want to give, but there has to be some transparency and accountability.
I agree,
and that's the bottom line.
I said that with the notion that, you know, I will always say you have to be good stewards of donation, whether it's $1, 10,000, 100,000. You have to be good stewards of it. So you need to be accountable for it. So that's just how I feel. I know others may have a different view on those types of things of giving and things of that nature. That's fine, but that's just my stance on it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and transparency doesn't mean you have to know all the details. Transparency primarily means you got to communicate. You got to communicate about what's happening. You got to communicate primarily a vision of you know where you're going. People need to know where you're going. They're going to just throw money and buy you fuel, and you're just going out in the middle of the ocean, going around and around without a rudder. People want to know where you're going. I want to ask the question, Ray. You may or may not. You may not want to tell. You may know and not want to say it, but I'm curious. What's the salary of the AD, and what's the contract length?
The contract length. I don't remember what I have the contract. I just don't know what that is right off the top of my head. I think it's like 180. I think
it was something like that. I heard that before.
The contract terms are, I think he's till 2025.
Yes, because didn't he just extend it 2 months ago, 3 years?
Yeah. He's just got an extension, but the extension, and I wanted to read that when Crystal was talking about it. Let me try to find. Y'all go ahead, but I try to find that that term, that clause that I had posted.
Yeah, it's over 100 a year. And
I know Brian. I think Brian was making 160, so he has to be over 160.
No, actually, Brian was making about 180 because that's what he was. That was one of the statements that I brought to the attention of the board, was that he was, you know, if he's already making 180, and we're offering 180, you know, and that's when I was told the foundation was going to
anything what he said he was going to do.
Let me say, the foundation said that they would kick in the other money for more compensation for the athletic director. So that I know to be the case.
I think I got it. Let me see if you can put up my screen.
But go ahead, Mike, if you have something else to say.
No, I was just curious about that, but I was the transparency part. And Ray, who's our SID?
I don't know if there's someone who is an assistant SID. I think his name is Curtis Flood. He was when the guy left. Brian, what was Brian's last name? He was here. He left, went to FAMU, came back to Grambling, then he left again. And I think when he left the second time, I don't remember seeing an announcement about the naming of a new SID. I just think that he was the assistant and he just took over the information, and they made him just change his, you know, to associate or assistant, you know, AD in charge of communications, because, you know, that's those nice little QC terms that they use nowadays to try to fluff things up. But that, you know, that's normal. But I think his name was Curtis Flood. I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I may be wrong, but I think that's what it is.
Well, you guys, I got to depart. But,
all right, man. It's
good. Peace.
All right, appreciate it.
Love dear own. Bye.
All right, take care.
So I think, Ray, it's in July, I'm looking, they extended his contract.
All right, here's the termination clauses. Termination 10.2. Item 10.2. In the event the university terminates the contract without clause, the AD shall be entitled to base salary that he would receive, that he would have earned for the remainder of the current fiscal year of the contract year.
So if he has a 3-year contract and they fire him, let's say in June, they just pay him for 6 months. What his base salary would be.
That's what I'm determined. That's what I think to be true. So no matter the years that he had on additionally, if they decide to fire him, the day before the fiscal year, we don't have to pay him no more. Anymore at all. Total. So, but I think Hughes' thing was a certain date, which was December. Because that's when he was hired. So that's why his firing came then. Right. And then after that, we don't owe, according to that, we don't owe him any.
That's right.
Any additional funds, because the 15th, after the 15th, he would have been fully guaranteed and would be owed the remaining salary in any current fiscal year. That's what the statement said. So that's
which is why I think he was really fired more than anything else. Yeah. Contractually, I think he was contractually fired more so than the 6 and 5 or the record. That's really why I thought they fired him.
Well, but here, let's close this and we'll talk after the recording's over. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I understand that people had to jump off. We're probably going to do another show as soon as the new coach is hired in football, whenever that may be. So again, thank you for coming on. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the Higgins Travel Group, for sponsoring the show, and we'll be talking to you soon on our next show. Thanks for joining the Ray Higgins Show.